Hello and welcome to this week's News Desk with me, Chris Stafford, alongside Nancy Gillen. We both have football fever, don't we, Nancy?
We do, yeah. More than halfway through the Euros now, and definitely been dominating my month for sure.
Yeah, I know how you love your football, but we do have a little celebration over here. A championship game was won last night by the US, beating Canada in the CONCACAF Trophy. All important, of course, for us because we had to qualify for the Paris Olympic Games in 2024, and talk about our northern, our regular. This is a derby. This is a bit like Arsenal playing Tottenham or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think as well, both teams have gone for a bit of change, kind of whether good or bad as well. So it's quite an interesting matchup.
Yeah, it really was. And it was on late last night on Paramount Plus for those in the US who were keen enough to stay up for the 10 o'clock kickoff. But we did get one goal thanks to Alex Morgan, and that was the clincher. And she beat her San Diego teammate, the Canadian goalie, Kailen Sheridan. And that was in the 78th minute, Nancy. So, we had to wait a long time. And so did the fans. There was over 17,000 fans at that game last night. But we've talked about Alex Morgan being on such great form this season. I mean, both in the NWSL and when she's been with the squad, the national squad. And not surprisingly, she won the Golden Ball as the best player of the competition there because she'd scored 3 goals during the competition. But that one last night, that penalty was all important. So, yeah, we've qualified for the World Cup. We've qualified for the Olympic Games now. So a championship has been completed there down in Monterrey, Mexico. CONCACAF is done and dusted. So we can now turn our focus to UEFA Euros, the 2022 Euros, which I know are getting you really excited now because we're whittling it down a little bit. You're still obviously hoping that England make it all the way to the finals at Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into the really exciting bit now, into the knockout stages. And yeah, like you say, I think England are definitely looking good for sure. But yeah, there's always a degree of comfort in the group stage that, like you can lose a game and still go through or whatever. So it's the knockout, it just comes down fully to that one game. If you don't play well, that's it. That's tournament over. But yeah, so England will take on Spain in tomorrow's quarterfinal, then Germany, Austria, which is, I think, a really interesting matchup on Thursday, Sweden, Belgium on Friday, and France, Netherlands, which again, I think is a really great match on Saturday. So a lot of really good teams there. We've got obviously the hosts, England, we've got defending champions, the Netherlands, Olympic silver medalists, Sweden. Germany and France have both looked really, really strong in the tournament so far. And then I suppose Austria and Belgium are underdogs, probably have got nothing to lose, so might give it a real go. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to who comes out on top of all of those matches.
Yeah, super exciting. So we've got 4 games in a row there now. And we've talked before, Nancy, about who we like the look of right now. And I was liking the look of France for a while. And I was thinking, if it's going to be an England-France final. But Germany have not conceded a goal. They're looking really powerful. And you favour them to meet England at Wembley.
Yeah, kind of. I don't want to jinx anything. I always feel like I am when I discuss these things. But for me, I can see England beating Spain tomorrow. I've watched Spain in person twice, and I think they're a great team and they've got great players, but they don't have a clinical edge. They struggle to score goals. They keep a lot of the possession. So I think if you're expecting that, it's okay as long as you can, counter-attack against them and get goals. And luckily, on fire, as we know, in the tournament so far. I think scoring, 15... 14 goals in the group stage, which is a record. So yeah, I'm quite confident about that. So then that would put England through to either Sweden or Belgium. I'm presuming Sweden. Again, I think Sweden have been a bit disappointing so far. So that should be England in the final. Then yeah, I expect Germany and France to win their respective quarterfinals. And for me, Germany I would describe them as formidable. I think they haven't conceded, like you said. I think they've looked really confident, just kind of getting the job done. France have looked good for sure. But yeah, they drew against Iceland yesterday and they looked a little off the pace. I think maybe a better team would have punished them a lot more and probably won the game. So for me, yeah, Germany winning that semi-final, which would leave us with an England-Germany final at Wembley, which the idea of which is absolutely terrifying, and we're not even there yet. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just to go back to Spain, I was a bit disappointed with Spain. I was expecting better of them. They just looked a bit sloppy, and it just didn't look like they, were fully in sync and coordinated to go all the way. So yeah, a little bit disappointed with them. Yeah, I thought they looked a little bit sloppy, to say the least. When they have so much power play there if they have the right players, but there were just some areas of the game I thought they were definitely falling short, and surprising too. I expected more of them.
Yeah, I think as well, like, you expect them to be scoring quite a lot of goals and stuff given the team that they are and the players they have, but it is a case of, they will have the ball like so much of the time but not really doing anything with it, just kind of passing. They've resorted to just putting in crosses, but then they don't have a striker in the middle who attacks it or like heads it home. Yeah. So I think they are lacking a bit of bites. I probably say that and they're probably going to win like 4-0 tomorrow. But yeah, I think they have not been too impressive. So yeah, I think it's been a bit of a disappointment for them so far.
Yeah, I think we just need to rile them up, so we have a real contest tomorrow. Where is that game against England at quarters being played, Nancy?
So that's going to be at Brighton at the Amex Stadium. So I'll be going to that because I got my accreditation confirmed today. So yeah, trip down to Brighton tomorrow.
Okay, jump on the train? Yeah,
I'm definitely getting the train, but I'm a bit worried because of the heat wave here. If they're going to be running on time, hopefully. So I'm just going to go nice and early, hopefully get down there a few hours before kickoff, just to make sure I'm down there. And if there's any problems, it will give me enough time to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. And where's the Germany-Austria game being played?
That's at Brentford in London. So I'm also hoping to go to that one. So yeah.
That's on Thursday.
Back to back, yeah.
Yeah, and the Sweden-Belgium game on Friday, where's that taking place?
So that is, I believe it's... No, hang on a sec. I know Netherlands-France is... You know what? It's literally evaded me where those ones are, so I'm just going to quickly do it. Okay, yeah. Sweden-Belgium is Lee Sports Village, which is up near Wigan, Manchester. And then France-Netherlands is at the New York Stadium in Rotherham. So, yeah, those two matches are up north. So I'm not going to those ones.
Oh, you're not going to either of those? Okay, that's Friday.
No, yeah. I think if England gets to the semi-final that England would play in is Sheffield. I think if we get there, I'm going to try and go up for that. But I think, just because I've got those the first two quarterfinals in the diary, I think it would be a lot of travelling to then go up north and go to the other games as well. So, yeah, I'll save myself for the semi-finals, hopefully.
Right, semi-finals are on Tuesday the 26th and Wednesday the 27th, and the final on Sunday, July 31st, 12 noon. Is that 12 noon UK time?
That was US time, so it's 5 p.m. here.
5 p.m. Okay, 5 p.m. In the UK in Wembley Stadium, which is going to be, quite the game. Do you have accreditation, or are you going as a fan?
Well, I have a ticket. Accreditation doesn't open until you know which teams are in the final. So I'll apply for accreditation as well, but as backup, I have a ticket. So covered. Yeah, I've got all bases covered. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we shouldn't run before we can walk. We've got the quarterfinals to handle. First of all, they're taking place, as we said, tomorrow and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. All right. Just sort of rounding up what you've seen so far, then, because we've talked a little bit about the other team's performance. Can you pick out a player or two that has really knocked you over? You've really, really, really standout performances. Because over here, we've got Alex Morgan, or Alex Morgan. She's the standout player for everything. She also won, by the way, the Golden Ball as the best player of the competition, if I didn't mention that, at CONCACAF. So congratulations, Alex. She's absolutely on fire. But who's on fire as far as you're concerned in the Euros, Nancy?
I'll say, I'll say an English player and then I'll say a player from another team because I don't want to be biased. So in terms of English players, I think Beth Mead is 100% impossible to ignore this tournament so far. She scored 5 goals in 3 games and also got 3 assists as well, which just shows how many goals she's scoring and creating. So she is leading the race for the Golden Boot to finish as top scorer in the tournament overall. So, she's had a brilliant season for Arsenal and then has just kind of continued that form for England and has been our most crucial player. I think the best player in every game so far. So, yeah, she's been great. And then I really like the look of Linda Dahlmann. She's a German player. She has just been quite a... I think significant part of Germany's success. She got a goal as Germany. She's as well. She's just been, kind of all over the pitch for them. So, and as I think Germany are going to be one of the teams that are going to do well, I think she's going to be a big part of that. So, yeah, she plays in midfield for Germany. So, yeah, I really like the look of her.
Okay, all right. So obviously, you hope that Beth Mead will prevail. Will it be interesting to see what happens tomorrow? All right, stay tuned for that because we'll have a roundup of the quarterfinals and possibly the semis too. It depends when we record next week, doesn't it, Nancy? If we record on Monday, then we'll just have a roundup of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct.
All right. Okay. I want to go back to the NWSL for now, Nancy. I don't know if you saw this story that they're going to consider abortion rights when they choose their expansion cities. Did you read that story?
I did, yeah. And it looks very, it's kind of one of those situations where sport and politics really mix, don't they? And it's kind of how politics influences sport. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. There's a clear overlap there, but they've made it quite a conversation point too, and not just the NWSL, but other sports as well, given how the Roe v. Wade law was overturned a few weeks ago now. But what they're saying is, it is a very it is a pain point for the players and for the clubs, and that laws hurting individuals with capacity to have children and laws hurting the LGBTQ community will play a role in player staff recruitment. So they've come right out and made that statement. We'll follow that, of course, as we start to consider those expansion cities. It's good that we're growing the number of clubs over here, Nancy.
Yeah, it seems to be quite a rapid pace as well. Kind of, it's been nearly every season you're getting more and more clubs join, which is good because obviously you want a bigger league. It's more competitive and interesting.
And, it's not happening with our northern friends north of the border. Canada have been crying out for a league, and it's still not happening. They have other challenges, I think, up there, but of course, that means that we get a lot of the Canadian players playing for US teams.
Yeah, and I know there's definitely been some movement in that area. And when you look at the Canadian international team, who have been so successful recently and winning, the gold medal and started to compete with the US, it does seem like a bit of a shame that they probably have a pipeline up to a certain point and then all their players go over to the US. So I think for their best interests, especially with the national team, they would definitely be wanting their own league. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see maybe with time, because they have obviously they're the Olympic champions. They have so many class players. They deserve a league of their own. We're going to stay with football for the next story, Nancy, and this comes from Emma Hayes, the Chelsea manager. I should just mention that she's been our main analyzer for ESPN2 covering the Euros. You probably wonder where she was, because she's probably not on British TV, is she?
Yeah, no, I did notice. Well, I saw that she was going with ESPN, and quite jealous because she is such a brilliant. Her pun really explains things well and in very easy to understand terms. So yeah, you've got a good one there.
Yes, we certainly have. But anyway, she wrote an article for the Telegraph newspaper in London about player periods, menstruation. Now, they're not just painful, they can wreck a footballer's career. And I thought that was a really good article, Nancy.
I did as well, and I read that too. And yeah, I think just some kind of highlights, some of the points she highlights. So it's not even necessarily kind of obviously like pain is an issue, but things like your mood, like the fact that it affects players' moods, like that is something that is quite a big deal, because it could maybe affect your motivation or like your self-belief or your confidence and stuff like that. So there has been research done into it, and I think it's kind of been around either looking at how it can be linked to injury or like offsetting the pain, but then there are so many more factors beyond that as well, which Hayes highlighted, which I think is really important. And yeah, I know she's been doing a lot of work with Chelsea to monitor her players' menstrual cycles, so it's really great that is starting to happen.
Yeah, and she's doing it in a way, you know, that is not, obviously non-invasive. It doesn't undermine their confidence and you know, embarrass them in any way, because often women and young women are embarrassed by it, and we see so many girls leaving sport once they start their periods. You know, it's a real issue, but I love the way she's tackling it. And we know, certainly from tennis, there's been a lot of discussion about athletes wearing white shorts or white dresses too. You know, this has been very inhibitive, just that something as basic as the colour of shorts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you look and there are events like Wimbledon, which have obviously all white, and you look at a lot of, say if you just were watching the Euros and you counted how many of the teams had white shorts, it'd probably be the majority of them. So, you know, it's something that is so commonplace in sports, but actually can be of detriment to female athletes. So it just shows kind of how much the menstrual cycle hasn't really been considered at all.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, there's a very good article. There'll be a link to it in the show notes at withsports.com. But she concludes, I thought, very poignantly by saying, imagine if a player like Harry Kane simply couldn't start one day. That would be a huge story. And that's a scenario that is totally plausible for a player with endometriosis. And she says, I hope we see 1,000% more research, because it's about time sport took this far more seriously. So well done, Emma. That's a very, very good article. You know, before we move away from football, I did want to mention, I saw this on Twitter last week, that the game between Northern Ireland and England saw a peak TV audience of 3.4 million and 525,000 website streams on the BBC. Yeah, that's
pretty impressive. I think some of both the figures for attendance and viewing figures have been amazing. A lot of them record breaking. So it's brilliant to see such high interest in the tournament.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. And we know the first game, how many were there attending the very first game when England played Austria, Nancy, at the opener? It
was around 65,000. So yeah, I think that was a record for a Euros match, a women's Euros match in total in history. So without even getting to the final, where there'd probably be around 80,000 at the match. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, the games that I've been watching on ESPN, they look like almost full, you know, almost sold out. Some they said were sold out, but, you know, packed, enthusiastic crowds, you know, that kind of crowds that you would see at a men's football tournament, were there, you know, men and families supporting the women. It was really good to see. And also a lot of overseas visitors too.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so well attended, and like you said, everyone coming over and like, you know, wearing their colours and their flags and stuff. It's been a brilliant atmosphere around the tournament so far.
And one more story before we do actually move on from football, but Sam Kerr, who plays for Chelsea, we just mentioned, and also for the Matildas, the Australian, she's on the front of the FIFA 23 cover. You know, that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, I mean, FIFA is such a, as in the game, is such a popular game for football fans. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to play it, and I used to get really annoyed at the lack of female players on it. And there are more now, but I think on this edition, there's going to be more women's leagues and stuff. And yeah, having Sam Kerr on the front is massive. She's the first ever women's footballer on the front of a global cover. So I think it was 2016. I think there was Alex Morgan was on the cover of the US edition. I think it was Steph Catley was on the cover of the Australian edition, but in terms of the edition that goes to in every country in the world, this is the first time that a female footballer has been included on it. So yeah, it's really massive, and she is, I think, kind of a good pick. She's obviously very talented football wise, but then she is kind of one of those iconic players. Like everyone knows who she is. She creates a lot of like big moments in women's football. So yeah, I think it's a really cool thing to happen.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but her girlfriend, Christy Mears, who plays for the US, she's been playing really well in the CONCACAF tournament, really getting in there. Even if she didn't start, she's been coming on. And, you know, she's a very effective midfielder. She's really been seizing some opportunities. So I'm sure they'll be very proud of each other right now.
Yeah, a bit of a power couple.
Well, we're going to turn to another major event that's happening in the sports world right now, and that's taking place in Eugene, Oregon, on the west coast of the US, and the World Athletics Championships, Nancy. There's been titles won, and we're going to start with one big one, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who won her 5th 100-metre world title. I know you've always been a big fan of her, but she really is a powerhouse herself.
Yeah, pretty remarkable, really. So yeah, like you said, she won the women's 100 metres at the World Championships. As we know from the Olympics in years gone by, that's a pretty competitive field. So she finished first in 10.67 seconds, which was a World Championship record. Sharika Jackson finished second and Elaine Thompson-Herah finished third. So it was a Jamaican clean sweep, and it was actually the first time a country has taken a clean sweep of the women's 100 metre at World Championships, which is quite
extraordinary.
Yeah, I found that quite
1, 2,
surprising. Just because of Jamaica's dominance in sprinting, but I would have thought either the US or Jamaica would have achieved that before. But yeah, no, pretty amazing. It shows how good women's sprinting in Jamaica is right now. But yeah, so a pretty record-breaking achievement from Fraser-Pryce. She became the first person to win 5 golds in an individual track event at the World Champs. And yeah, at 35 years old, she's showing absolutely no sign of slowing down, literally. So yeah, really remarkable from her.
Yeah, and close behind was Britain's Dina Asher-Smith there, we should point out. You know, Elaine Thompson-Herah was 10.81 and Dina was 10.83. So, you know, quite the battle going on there, and there always is. But I think it's really exciting for Jamaica, I mean, to take all 3. We should mention the rest of the finalists there were from Switzerland, the USA, the Côte d'Ivoire, and 2 American athletes. So that continues those championships. Nancy, heptathlon is going on right now. Have you been following that?
Yes, I have a little bit because Kat Johnson-Thompson, the British athlete, is involved in that. But yeah, a lot of the timing for the World Championships is a bit tricky because it's normally wake up and a lot of it has happened already. But yeah, I've been keeping my eye on it the best I can.
Yeah. It is. It's a very, very full schedule there, and it goes through the rest of the week. And if you go to the link at worldathletics.org, you can actually listen to the radio, which is blow-by-blow commentary there right on their website, which is pretty cool. But that's all, as I say, all the way through to the weekend till Sunday, day before my birthday, Nancy.
Oh, very nice! Happy birthday!
Yes. Happy birthday. That's funny. Thank you. Yes. Next Monday. All right. What have we got next? We've got some cycling news, haven't we? Women's Tour de France preview.
Yep. So Women's Tour de France, the first ever edition of the Women's Tour de France, starts on Sunday. And it's an 8-stage event. So it will be finishing the following week. So it starts in Paris at the Eiffel Tower, actually, and finishes in... Excuse my French, but La Super Planche de Belleville.
Well done. Good effort.
Thanks. So yeah, it's the first time, surprisingly, I think this kind of shocks everyone, but there's never been a official Women's Tour de France before. It was meant to start last year, but it was postponed because of the pandemic. So finally happening this year. And yeah, pretty exciting. I'm actually going to the first stage. So I'm going out to Paris on Saturday and coming back Monday. And I'll be, I can't remember, I definitely spoke about it on the show, but I went to the Paris-Roubaix, another women's cycling race. Yeah. So
I remember that. Yeah.
Zwift, who are like electronic cycling company. So I'm going with them again, and we'll be able to go in a race car for the first stage, which will be really cool. Really cool. So just following the race. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And it's a massive moment in women's cycling. I think Tour de France, even if you don't like cycling, it's such an iconic event. Like, everyone knows about it. So the fact that there wasn't a women's one was pretty bad. And having that, I think, just raised the profile of women's cycling massively. So yeah, I'm really excited to go out there and to see, how it takes off.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how many cyclists there are racing.
Yeah, I mean, there's normally quite a few, isn't there? So I'm not sure how big the peloton is going to be, but I presume maybe, I don't know, 60-ish maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything to that effect about how many entries there are, but it is going to be exciting and good for the women finally to get their own Tour de France. And I envy you. I'm a cyclist, but not a road cyclist like that. But
oh, you never know. Yeah. Maybe you have been doing some impressive cycling.
We will see. I'll just stick to the trails for now. But yeah, I envy you going over there. Have a great trip, and you'll come and tell us about it next week. So you're leaving when? Are you leaving? It's
a pretty short trip, so Saturday afternoon, and then coming back on Monday.
Okay, cool. Well, it hopefully won't be too hot for them either, because there's been record temperatures, not just in the UK where you are sitting sweltering right now, which hopefully will pass when the weather changes tomorrow. But in Europe, it's really been sizzling, hasn't it, and caused evacuations and fires and quite a lot of damage. And climate change has really taken hold there.
Yeah, it's pushing 40 Celsius here. Yeah, and we don't have the infrastructure to cope with this heat. So it's my house is very hot right now, but it's meant to be relatively short-lived. So I think tomorrow we'll be fine again.
Yeah, well, hopefully cool off for you. Now, one more. We've got one more story from netball, haven't we? And this is about Coates. John Coates, who's the IOC vice president, insists that netball is a long, long way off Olympic inclusion for Brisbane 2032. What's that about? Yeah,
so the International Olympic Committee Vice President John Coates, there's been the proposal that netball be included in the 2032 Olympics because it's in Australia, and obviously Australia are incredibly strong at netball. So yeah, they've kind of been the dominant force in netball since it began, really. But obviously, netball was not an Olympic sport, and it hasn't been. So yeah, Coates was kind of talking about that debate, and he has been pretty not shut it down as such, but he's he's kind of said that to achieve Olympic recognition, netball has to be gender neutral, which is kind of the main problem that has been highlighted, especially because the IOC now wants a 50-50 split in sports if they're to have Olympic inclusion. And he said, we don't see men playing at a high standard, starting by being good enough to be part of the Commonwealth Games programme. So suggesting there that you'd have to have a men and women's netball tournament at the Commonwealth Games before it could even begin to be considered for Olympic inclusion. So yeah, I think that's probably quite dispiriting for people that are campaigning to have netball at the Olympics, but I also think relatively realistic, because that is just kind of the criteria these days for Olympic inclusion. And yeah, I think there's a long way to go before netball can be there.
Yeah, and they're also talking about the international broadcast appeal, and that it does not have it like a sport like gymnastics would. Well, you could say that about basketball, but basketball. So I mean, I'm surprised they're even saying that, because I find netball as compelling as basketball.
Yeah, and I think as well, one of the big things about the Olympics is that you don't watch sports that you're necessarily interested in. You kind of turn on the TV and then you get engrossed in a sport that is just on. Like, that's kind of the thing about it. Like, there's a lot of sports that people will watch and love in the Olympics, and they don't for the next 4 years. So yeah, I don't necessarily see that as an argument. And I don't think as well sports should be picked on what the broadcasting figures are going to be like, because it kind of just goes against, I suppose, the Olympic spirit. I agree. I can see less value in that argument and more value in the gender split. They're just going to have to really kind of develop men's netball pretty quickly if they have any chance of getting in the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll keep you posted on that one. And meanwhile, talking about the Olympics in LA now in 2028, they've just announced their dates. And the Olympics always runs over my birthday. So this is going to be July 21st, which is a Friday, through Sunday, August the 6th in 2028, if anybody needs to mark their calendar. I want to give a shout out, thinking of the 2028 Olympics in LA, because our old friend and judoka, who's a London Olympic bronze medalist, Marty Malloy, she's just been hired onto the LA team to do social media, because when she retired a few years ago, she got a job in social media, being a social media manager, and then she got a better job and she's become something of an expert in social media marketing. And so LA Olympic Organizing Committee have hired Marty Malloy, so well done, Marty. But yeah, 2028, not that far away. Nancy, you'll probably book a ticket for that one too, will you? Try and get accreditation.
Yeah, definitely. I think a very exciting event. There's just so much happening at the moment, isn't there? It's amazing.
Yeah, and to look forward to. Yeah, so we've got Paris to look forward to. You've got to get credentials for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Go to another. Yeah,
going to be working on that.
Yeah, and Paris, and then there's some nice ones to be lined up, right? You've got Paris, and then LA, and then Brisbane. So. Yeah, some really great venues, one after the other. I'll always say that of all the Olympics I've done, Sydney was by far my favourite and the best. It was, Australia is just a tremendous host for an Olympic Games or any major sporting event, because they're such a sporting nation. And don't forget, we've got World Cups to look forward to down there next year, Nancy. Down under.
Really well organised, and yeah, really looking forward to that. Hopefully be able to get out there too, but we'll see.
Yes, yeah. All right, one thing at a time. We've got the Euros to watch now in the next few days. It's going to be over before we know it, so just another week left of those Euro Championships in the UK. Nancy, I'm sure you're really super excited for the next few days. You probably won't get much sleep.
No, probably not a lot, but I think it's all worth it for sure.
Definitely. Remind everybody where they can read what you're writing about those Euros and follow you on social media.
So I'm on Twitter, I'm at Nancy Gillen, at Nancy_Gillen. And on Instagram, I'm Nancy Gillen_sport. And then everything I write is on Give Me Sport Women, which is on Twitter. You can find us at Give Me Sport W.
All right. And we're, of course, at wissports.com and at wissports on social media channels. So that's about it for this week. And this is season 4 now, episode 27. We're recording on July 18th. And you've got a week of, I think, just non-stop competition. So I think I better let you go and get some sleep now, because it's quite late in the UK. And then also your trip to Paris as well. Super envious of that. But anyway, enjoy all your sport, Nancy. And we'll be back early next week, maybe, to get a roundup of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be reporting on an England win.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and I hope you enjoy your sport, and particularly the Euros. So join us again next week. Until then, goodbye for now.